Hello and welcome back to this episode of the Law of Relevancy podcast. I'm your host, Cord Zoen. I'm the CEO of Bake More Pies, a full-service advertising and marketing agency located here in Tampa Bay. Today I'm joined by Dean Akers. Dean is a longtime friend of mine, and he is one of the most relevant people that I know. Dean has a 50-year track record in business, and I want to say he's been relevant the entire time. So, Dean, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Cords. And I'm probably the most irrelevant, which makes me relevant.
Yeah, well, anyhow, I love hearing your stories about how, it's almost like, Dean, you've got some basic fundamentals that have carried you through your entire career. And you've been a person that's worked in the stock area of, a warehouse and all the way to many times a CEO. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, what I've found in my career is, and I found it early on, is people do business with people, A. B, most people let noise get in their head about competition and everything. Mm-hmm. And in every business I've gone into, I've found when I am engaged with the client in the marketplace, my businesses have hyper growth and price and competition never matter.
Right.
And, I shared the story one time with you about the filter and customer service, and our number one part seller was in the corner and in the back corner of a 40,000 square foot warehouse. And I was a lazy young man as a warehouse puller, my first job out of college. And I asked the guy, I go, why is it back there? That's because that's the way we do it. And so I went and bought my own cart, went back and pulled the filter, put it on the cart, brought 20 of them up front because it was our fastest selling product all the way in the back.
Yeah.
And I had it there, and somebody come to the window, they go, I need a 215-502. I can still remember it today. I go, boom. He goes, wow, thanks. Boom, the customer left. Mm-hmm. And Lou goes, what'd you do? You were not going to pay for that cart. And I said, well, Lou, I didn't ask you to pay for the cart. I bought it. He goes, why would you pay your own money? I said, because I didn't have the heart to tell him I was actually lazy. That running all the way around this warehouse was driving me nuts. But that became my start of my journey. And then when I was blessed enough to get to run the company when I was 27 and a half, we were caught into the recession of the 80s, which was the meltdown, worst recession.
87.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And so I actually got to run the company as a 27 and a half year old. And we had dropped to 50 million in sales from 60 million, which was our biggest year ever, was 60 million. And we deployed this, getting rid of this noise. The next year, in the height of the recession, we went from 50 million in a 12-month window to 83 million.
Have mercy.
Then we went the next year, still in the recession. And by the way, we were selling construction equipment, which was affected by the recession. So we weren't selling tech or something. We did 103 million. So we doubled the sales of the company in 2 years in a recession over the previous 35 years, highest number. And then I went on, that got me the itch to go buy my own company, which is what I did.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, what I like to do is, with this podcast, what we try to do is we talk about things that are happening right now, right? And it's the decision making, like the stories and the history and how did you get there and all of that. Like a lot of podcasts are doing those types of things.
Sure.
But what I think is really cool is, we talk about things that are those decisions that you made back then. It's like when you talk about them in the present and you talk about like your motivating factor being laziness. Well, like I feel like I have a lot of that myself too, right? Like I don't like to do things twice. I like to be efficient, and so is that one of the things that's helped you figure out and solve these problems over all these years?
It's somewhat, but there's a couple things, and this is really relevant today. Guess what is the only thing, and this I've learned for 40 years, guess what the only thing that is relevant and equal to every human being? Doesn't matter what race, gender, sexual orientation, it just doesn't matter what it is. It's the only equalizer.
I don't know. I'm going to say something like fear.
No, time.
Time, yeah.
24 hours in a day. And so no matter, it doesn't care what your color skin is, it doesn't care. So how that's relevant is what most people do is they don't understand that's the biggest asset they have. So they squander it. Mm-hmm. And they squander it in lots of ways. Mostly they squandered in self-talk. They start believing crap that's just not true. That first story I told you, when we were doing 50 million from 60 million because of the recession, everybody believed that the thing that caused us to drop was the recession. The thing that caused us to drop was we weren't calling on customers.
Yeah, you gave up.
We gave up. We quit calling on customers, and everybody else had. So it wasn't just us. It was like the recession. So when we started calling on customers, all of a sudden, we took off. We did a $50 million jump in 2 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and price didn't matter. As a matter of fact, I've done stuff as recent as last year where I've gone into my organizations and raised the prices a bunch, and the sales guys think it's price. This is classic. Talk about relevant.
Right.
And I pay them commission to lose sales. Now, that'll have all your listeners just scratching their head right now.
So let's talk about that for a second. So how does that work?
So I tell them, I'm going to pay you 100% commission to lose sales. If you lose a sale. So if you lose a sale and you come back and the customer signs, I bought it from ABC, I'm going to pay you a commission as though you got the sale. Now, do you think that screws with people's heads?
100%.
Yeah. So guess what they do? See, I know this because I understand it, how to be relevant. How many sales do you get that you don't know about? Zero.
Zero, right.
Yeah.
It's like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Correct.
So you're forcing them to take the shots.
I'm not forcing them.
You're incentivizing them.
Yeah, and they want to go out and do one of these and prove me wrong, and they're not good enough to lose them. And when you make your price so high, they already know your price is way high than everybody else. Guess what they never talk about?
Price.
Exactly.
Right.
And they build relationships, and all of a sudden, that's how I hyper-grow companies.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, Dean, what are the industries you worked in?
I've been in the construction industry. I sold construction equipment. I had the largest commercial tire company in Florida, selling tires to all the major companies in Florida. I've been in the cosmetic surgery business. I had the largest facial plastic surgery company in the nation. We did 25,000 surgeries a year. I did laser hair. We grew that from 1 to 60 locations in 5 years and had a huge exit. I've been in the trampoline industry, which is family entertainment. I've been in the copy equipment industry. I've been in a lot of different industries. And guess what the common denominator is?
Well, I mean, I was going to ask you a question about that because when in our space, we work with a huge diversity of clients, but all businesses are the same. They all have like inputs. They always add value to whatever their inputs are. They sell those things, and then they have, so there's revenues and there's like this end result. And that was one of the reasons I was so excited to talk to you, because you've worked across all these different industries, and it, to me, it's like, I feel like you believe the same thing. I mean, it really doesn't matter what industry you're in.
It doesn't matter what industry, and what's even crazier. Yeah. What's crazier? Back to, you were asking me questions about how I find, or how I decide. I'm a pilot, okay? And if you fly in the fog or in the clouds and you don't trust your instruments, guess what's going to happen to you?
Yeah, I mean, you're
going to die.
Yeah, you're going to die, right.
So you don't get to blame the competition.
That's right.
So in business, 99.9% of the CEOs that call me, or when I speak to big groups and stuff, and I ask them their demographics of their customer. When I went into Ideal Image, and I went in there, we had the one location, I said, tell me about your customer. Well, it's a 40-year-old woman, average household, 70 grand, and they come from all over because we advertise and everybody comes. When I did a deep dive on the actual customer, they were 32 years old, 10-minute drive time, and $38,000 household income for a $3,000 procedure.
How could they be so wrong?
Because they were trusting their gut.
Yeah.
They were believing their own. I can't tell you how many companies get that wrong. And it's not just consumer. I have one customer that he's sitting there telling me how tough his business was. I got the profile of his top 10 clients. And with that profile, I showed him, he's a $5 million company. I showed him with a medium market share. We're not talking about some crazy ass market share. That on Highway 19, with a profile of his current customers, he could do 100 million.
Yeah.
And then he started making excuses where some of them we could actually see from his office. And he said to me, he goes, well, my competitors, they did with them. And I go, okay, so then tell me the general manager's name. Well, I don't know him. Tell me the office. I don't know. I said, well, guess what I can promise you?
You don't know your competitor.
Well, this was the customer.
Oh, gotcha.
They were making the excuse that the competitor was inside because he already was. But he literally can see it, Cords. And I go, you don't even know him and they're your neighbor? I would like to tell you that particular company is unique.
Yeah.
But the construction equipment business, we had another business. I was in the crane business. The recession hit, $32 million. We're like, woo. And so I did the same thing. I incentivized the salesman to go out. We went and we started calling on customers. We were doing X dollars, say $600,000 with this one particular customer that we already have them. Right. When I did the analysis and got to know the customer, 3 years later, we did $35 million with them.
Yeah.
You think we knew the customer? No.
Yeah, probably didn't even. Yeah, exactly. I've had a couple of instances like that in my career where, you have some kind of a business relationship with some customer, but the organization I was with didn't understand what that customer was truly worth because of those activities that customer had to do on a regular basis, right? And if we could just meet that need, we could extremely scale what we were doing.
Yeah, and the funny part about it is when you have happy customers, price never matters. And somebody goes, oh, does it matter? I think I told you one particular company, the women were all telling me that price mattered. And so I did the purse analogy with the Louis Vuitton purses. And I had an ad. This is how relevant this is. I had an ad from Walmart for a purse for $39.95. So the girls were all talking about our prices and stuff. And I go, okay, I got to ask y'all a question. They put their purses on the table. They all had designer purses. 2 of them had Louis Vuitton purses of the 5. One of them was a white Louis Vuitton, and I'm asking them how much they cost, and she goes, well, I paid $4,200. The other girls were giggling because they knew. So I pulled the ad out from the Walmart insert of the paper that day. This is a while back. And up in the corner, there was a calfskin purse, $39.95.
Sure.
It carried the same wallet, keys, everything, which they agreed it was a utility item before I tricked them.
Functionality is the same.
Yeah. So I asked them, I said, do you think the people at Louis Vuitton are freaking out that the largest retailer on the planet, $500 billion in sales, is coming right after their market with a $39.95 purse?
I'm sure they said no.
No. And so I went around the room and I asked each one of them,
who do you
buy? No, who do you want to be?
Yeah.
And they all said Louis Vuitton. So I leaned up on the table, and I'm not going to use the exact words because I don't want to, but I said, then start acting like it. Here's what happened when our head trash, we made our own relevancy with a product that everybody else sold exactly the same as ours. So we didn't have a unique proposition.
Sure.
Our sales price doubled, but more importantly, our closing rate doubled, and we sold the company 6 years later for about $180 million.
That's phenomenal. That's great. So how do you act like it? How do you act like Louis Vuitton?
You get it between your own head and how
you're worth it.
Yeah, and you act like it. When I was a speaker years and years ago, when I was 40, I got asked to speak at a big convention because I'd sold my tire company, big deal, whoa. And so I said, well, it's only an hour, I'll $500. So I told the CEO of this company, $500. He said, great. He picks me up at the airport. I got a suite. I go on for an hour. Then I get home and I go, man, I was gone for a day and a half.
Yeah, I only made $500.
And this is back 30-something years ago, whatever it was. And so the next time I researched speakers, $2,500 was the average speaker. So now I get a call from an agency and they go, how much? I go, $2,500. They go, let me get back with you. Then and then they go, okay, come. Now I had to schlep a cab. I had a regular room. I did my speech, same thing, got $2,500. Same speech.
Yeah.
Then I had them call me and they go, how much is your speech? And I said, $10,000. They go, do you have any openings?
Yeah.
Now, what was the difference between the $500 speech, the $2,500 speech, and the $10,000 speech?
Well, functionally nothing.
Correct.
All right.
It was all between whose ears? Mine. And I did the math, by the way. The math said if I only did one $10,000 one,
yeah,
I could do $2,500 ones to equal it. Well, all of a sudden I started doing speaking, and then my ratings of a speaker went up because now I'm more of a headliner type speaker versus the guy doing the the frickin' deal in the back room.
Well, that's really interesting. One of the lessons, one of my favorite stories from college is I had an operations professor, and he goes, we always believed in the law of supply and demand, and we were doing these consulting on high-rise elevator systems, and they were charging something like $250 an hour, and which was amazing to me as a college student, imagining that somebody could charge that much money an hour for something. And he said that they were gonna, all he and all his colleagues, his other, 2 or 3 other professors that he was doing it with, were going to get back into the teaching. It was the fall was coming around. They'd done it all like spring, summer, and now they've got to teach again. And so they were like, supply and demand, we're just going to raise our price. He said they got busier because they raised their price, because the perception of value, it's like, well, those consultants are really good. They're $450 an hour, right?
But you gotta be confident.
Yeah.
You have to understand the expectation of the customer, so you can't give them a bad product. But
Right.
what happens, like the Louis Vuitton purse?
You have to deliver.
Yeah, and the Louis Vuitton purse carries the same stuff as the Walmart purse, but
Sure.
but when somebody walks in with it, some girl walks in, the other girl goes, "Oh, she has Louis Vuitton," and so for me today, I've helped some folks with the pandemic, and the ones I've helped in the pandemic have had their best year ever, and the reason is, even some guys in the restaurant business, is instead of getting immersed in the problem, which is easy to get all the noise, they decided to say, all the people that came to my restaurant really liked what I cooked.
Yeah.
They really liked it. They're not coming because they can't get what I cook. They're coming because I can't serve them in my restaurant. What if I could serve them in their home?
Exactly.
And so now their sales go up, but guess what? Their overhead went down.
Way down.
And they're making more money. They have happy customers. They upped it. Who cares if you're charging $35 a meal and the silverware doesn't come back? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just throw it away, or whatever. Not that you should throw
The
silverware.
machine is a much better machine
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's more consistent as as a delivery option.
My son is in candles.
Candles,
He makes candles.
like Yankee Candle.
Well, it's an experience in Hyde Park. So they shut Hyde Park down, totally shut it down.
Got it.
So Dennis goes, I don't know what I'm going to do, Dad. I said, well, you need to sit down and assess it. And I was really proud of he and his wife.
Sure.
He sat there and he called all the news medias and he said, I'm going to take custom candles to all the first responders. Mm-hmm. So he makes up a boatload of custom candles, takes them out to the first responders with the TV stations.
Yeah.
And now he's giving to nurses and policemen, the candle pour, we're giving these. Thank you for your service. Their website blew up. People wanted to order candles to give to who?
Yeah.
First responders.
Exactly.
Then he called all the previous customers that had come in just to have the experience of making a candle and all the crap they do in Hyde Park. He called them up and says, not email them, called them and said, hey, look, I know you're in the pandemic right now and you're stuck at home, possibly with your kids and stuff. Would you like us to make a candle for you? Would you like to buy one of your candles that you made, spearmint or whatever, because they have all that, what they did. And they go, send me 10 of them.
Yeah.
So now he's got a whole wholesale operation that has moved him all the way out of. He's still doing his on-site stuff now because it's coming back a little bit. But he's like, Dad, this selling candles this other way is way more profitable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's one of the things that I've learned from you is the how valuable it is to have positive relationships with people.
Totally.
And really change the game when it comes to like I know that you send out birthday cards to practically everybody you know.
I send out 50 to 100 handwritten notes a week minimum.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I told the story to a buddy of mine, one of the guys' sales groups I was with the other day. I sent a card out 2.5 years ago to a woman that I hadn't seen in 4 years. 5 days later, this other person calls me up and says, so-and-so recommended you for me to meet. I met with this other person. Since then, they have spent $200,000 with me.
Wow.
Do you think that note was worth it?
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. I love that approach. A handwritten note can really cut through the noise.
Oh, somebody asked me, so one of my ninjas, that's why I call my guys that make over $200,000 that work with me.
Yeah.
One of my ninjas was one of the top producers in this particular big billion-dollar company, and he's in the 50th best territory. So he's a top producer in the 50th best territory. So they're at their national convention, this is pre-COVID, and they're talking about marketing and all this other stuff. And he raises his hand, and the CEO obviously recognized him because he's a top producer. He goes, so-and-so, what, do you have a comment? And he goes, yeah, I want to ask you a question, because they're talking about open rates and all that. He goes, what do you think the open rate is for my handwritten, with a stamp on it, hand-addressed envelope?
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when a customer for him is worth 10 or 15 grand to him, it's like a layup shot, no-brainer.
I mean, it's almost like you need an army of people writing handwritten notes for you at that point.
But what happens is it's like the guy talking about Highway 19.
Sure.
And he's not even making calls. Just go meet them. You don't have to go spill them. In fact, I don't have it with me, but I think I gave you one time the thing I give all my sales guys, and it's a poncho.
No, you've never given me a poncho, Dean.
Do you know what it is?
It's probably has something to do with making it rain.
No. So I give it to all my sales guys. Because everybody thinks you need to make presentations. I never make a presentation. All my ninjas never make a presentation. Operative word, never. Okay. And so the poncho is something I made up, and it's the customer puke protector. And what it is, and it says on, this is being provided to you by your salesperson, so you can wear it while we puke our presentation all over you.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
But it's a joke to the sales teams to learn to ask open-ended questions, learn how to shut up, not interrupt, and the customer will take you to the promised land.
Sure, yeah, and that's the best thing about asking questions is that they'll literally tell you what their concerns are, and then all you have to do is figure out, how do I help with that situation? How do I help with this? Perfect. You just designed your whole program for yourself.
So one of my favorite things when you become a ninja, and we've actually recorded some of our sales calls of our teams around all over the years, and one of my favorite things, and it's like game, set, match, like playing chess, is when you're asking all these questions, the customer's telling you everything, and then they ask you this question. This is my favorite question. Can you help us? That's game, set, match.
I imagine you say yes.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that when the customer asks that, it's never
over.
price. Yeah, right. It's not a quote. It's not, here's what we can do. Can you help us? And as you ponder for a second and said, I think I can.
Yeah.
They go, great, let's get going. And that's like back to the speaking thing,
Yeah.
And once you establish what the value is, you're sitting there working with a company doing $50 million and they're trying to beat you over 200 grand. It's like, are you kidding me? Or 300 or even $1 million. So what happens if I take your company from 50 million with what I do to 75 million? Oh my God. What's that worth to you? Well, it's worth a lot to me. Okay, then let's figure out how to do
about
it.
half?
Yeah.
Right,
no, but you'd be shocked at how many people they'll sit there and they'll go, well, that's a lot of money. And I go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I had one customer tell me that they go, this is a particular guy in the thing you and I are involved. We were going to talk about. He's sitting there telling me he don't want to get in the business because everybody's cheap. And he's a Navy SEAL. Mm-hmm. And I go, well, you need to be this much. He goes, nobody's going to pay that. I said, everybody will pay it. And he goes, no, they won't. And I said, try it. So he goes out. Now people come in to do what he does. He teaches scuba, and they go, so how much do you charge? He says, I charge $250 an hour. They go, oh my God, I can get it done at the Y for $35. That's where you need to go.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to go have some Y guy teach you how to scuba dive, or you can dive with a Navy SEAL that's done 5,000 dives that is going to teach you diving. Your choice. I'm okay. I think you probably ought to go over there.
Right.
Well, how many people, it's the ultimate takeaway. How many people will actually go there? They all go, oh, you're right. And now where he wasn't going to go in the business, he's thriving.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's really cool how you help people understand their value.
Well, you and I, when we met, that was stress times for you.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was branching out on my own.
Yeah.
I remember we were talking about a couple of things, and one of the most valuable things that you taught me was, actually, you just recommended. You're like, "Hey, Cords, you got to read that book, The E-Myth."
Yeah, every entrepreneur should read it.
And it was a perfect book for me because my background, I was the tactician who had done all the jobs, so I felt like I was like well positioned to be an entrepreneur because I could do the design, I could do the database, the code, all the web pieces and everything else. And so, but that's the trap. The trap is you really aren't truly scaling until you're not doing those things. It's nice that you know how to do those things and you can have more productive conversations with customers and things like that, but you're really not going to scale at all until you can define those processes and then offload them to other teammates who can get it done.
Which brings us full circle to what I shared at the very onset, which was what? What is the one equal ingredient?
Time.
Yeah.
Time.
In other words, if you're going to run a $100 million company or a $1 billion company, you don't get any more hours a day than if you're running a $5 million company.
That's true. So you have to scale time.
Yeah, you have to figure out how to scale time, and it's 24 hours in a day. One of the tricks I always use, and I've written 2 books that way, is I use my iPhone and I set it for 10 minutes, and all I do is do 10 minutes. My wife called me today, and she was telling me, because about 2 months ago, she goes, "I want to join a gym," and she's in shape, good-looking woman and everything. I go, "Why are you going to join a gym?" She goes, "Because I want to start working out." I go, "Michelle, that's crap." And I gave her this app called the 7-Minute Workout.
Yeah.
I said, if you can do that 4 days a week, you'll be ripped. Yeah. And you don't even have to get in your car. You don't even have to own devices. And what happens, people are always looking for the I don't even call it the easy way. They're looking for the excuse. In fact, I have a box that I've had for almost 40 years. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It sits on my desk in every one of my companies. It's a card shoe. And I get everybody in the company to write their 5 favorite excuses. And then we put it in there. So when somebody starts an excuse with me, I go, "Time out. Just draw one out of there. It's about as good as the one you're going to give me."
Yeah.
And so they pull it out and it says, "My son's birthday was yesterday," or so, what, it doesn't even matter. Right. The dog ate it.
Yeah.
And it puts levity on people having excuses, because excuses don't produce anything.
They really don't. Well, so doing things like that, I mean, especially from 40 years ago, it seems like you almost felt like you've always been destined to help share some of this advice.
Well, this is my passion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's your passion. And you've written 2 books. So I know you've written Think Like a Child, and then another one was about 52 surprises, 52 wows.
Relationship Guide for Men. Yeah. That one cost me millions to write.
Yeah, right. So it's lessons learned
from an
expensive divorce.
Yeah,
right. I gotcha.
Yeah.
That's really cool, Dean. Well, I really appreciate you coming in. I'd love to have you back sometime. And, anytime that we get a chance to talk, it's like you always just have all these great little nuggets of wisdom, and it's really helped me in my career, and I appreciate it.
Well, Cords, I totally love you. I've watched you flourish, and I'm so proud of you. I genuinely am proud of you. And you're to be commended, and I'm here anytime you need me, anytime.
Thanks, Dean. I really appreciate it. Well, so where can people find you, follow you, listen to more of your great advice?
My podcast, The Sales and Leadership Ninja, is on all the major podcast networks. Mm-hmm. In fact, I do really well on Apple iTunes and stuff. And every week I just go into a 7 to 12 minute rant. And you can look at the titles, and they're all over the place, because it always comes off something the previous week that happened.
Sure.
And then I have, that's my main, and then Dean Akers, DeanAkers.com, or Adjunct CEO. But now I've gone with my name because I'm getting old and it's easier to remember. And you can go on there, and the podcasts are available there. But my podcast does really well. I have people that listen to it all over the world. I get the funniest comments. I get the amens from people. I've got leaders listening to it. I got salespeople listening to it. I got employees listening to it.
You're like a sales drill sergeant.
People, I'll have my buddies, and they'll call me up and they go, "Dean, who are you kicking around today?" I go, "I don't kick people around. But my hobby," you want to know what my hobby is?
Yeah, what's your hobby?
Beating people over the head with their own stick.
Sure. Yeah. It's like a Jedi mind trick or something.
Well, when they start talking and find out that, like the guy on Highway 19, I could look at him and go, really? So you're saying that the guy over there you can't sell to, but you've never called on?
Right, exactly.
Okay, well, you're right then.
Yeah,
you're right.
keep
you're
up
right.
that activity.
Yeah,
you're
right.
100% correct.
Yeah, you're 100% correct.
Well, that's awesome. So we can follow in your podcast. You've got your websites. I know you do a lot of consulting. So
Yeah, thank you so much. And again, I'm so proud of you. You've really developed and blossomed, and I love watching you. And I know you and I are now involved in the veterans program that we're working with, and that's a big give back for you and I. And
it is. That's an organization that you invited me into, and we help some of the special operators that are retiring out of special SOCOM right here in Tampa, and it's really rewarding for me. Like I actually carry a lot of guilt because I wasn't in the military, and I grew up listening to my grandfather's stories about World War II and everything, and I really idolized him. And, I made a choice not to go into the military, and I regret it. But, like, here I am. I've reached a point in my life where I can give back to those guys.
Which I'm in the same role you are, because Vietnam was going. Nobody wanted to go. But I don't have a guilt because I know right now I'm making a huge impact.
Yep.
In a lot of these guys' lives. And so my give back was kind of the battle the real battle that they're telling me. They tell me the real battles now.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm so surprised because, these guys are people who would probably be very comfortable in a foxhole or, when faced with like a machine gun nest or something, right?
No, they've done stuff. I went to a retirement ceremony the other day, and the stuff their peers were telling, I was like, whoa.
And then, but to get out into the business world, it can be very, very intimidating. It's an entirely different planet for them.
Totally.
And so we're helping them out a lot by helping to help make that transition a little bit easier.
Absolutely.
So
and I thank you for being a part.
All those guys really appreciate it. They thank you all the time. So anyhow, again, thanks for coming in, Dean.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to spend any time I get to spend with you.
Well, you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you, sir.
Well, thanks for watching this episode. Dean's been a wonderful guest, and please hit like and subscribe on our podcast to catch the next episode of the Law of Relevancy podcast. I'm Cord Zoen. See you next time.